Hey guys, it's Matt. Two quick things. If you're just listening or driving, past probably the first 2 minutes, you won't need to see any more images, but you really will need to see a few because you'll see this probably will evolve into the strangest video I've ever made. And it comes from the 17-year cicada. It's dormant, comes out every 17 years. This is a big news story in the Northeast. There's billions of these things here now. Hey guys, it's Matt. Have you heard of the 17-year cicada? These things are dying all over the place. In my backyard, on the driveway, on the deck. I didn't kill it, just didn't make it to the trees. Can you hear the din? Look at this. Incredibly, the 17-year cicada that hibernates for 17 years and comes out in the Northeast has a mask. It wears a mask. Where I'm going with this, I don't know. I swear to you, I have no idea. We'll see. When in doubt, it's always better to start at the very basic level, the most sane approach. Just tell you a little bit about the 17-year cicada if you're not familiar with it. Again, if I do this the wrong way, I'll be down the insane asylum where Jeffrey was with Bruce Willis. That was Philadelphia. That was where it was filmed, 12 Monkeys. I'll be in there with Jeffrey. Games, trying to get out. I better do this right, but it will get pretty crazy, I'm sure, as it goes on. Now, look, the 17-year cicada, the first part will be considered crazy by anybody stumbling upon this. The 17-year cicada by itself destroys, we've been talking about Darwin and evolution and that nonsense, by itself. It is a cicada, a John Cicada, a tomato, it's like a locust, I guess. I'm no expert on it. But it comes out for almost 3 weeks every 17 years. And it goes into the ground and hibernates for 17 years until it comes out again. When it comes out, just let's start sane, a little education on the 17-year cicada. This is called Brood X. Brood X. There's all sorts of different broods. Of course, this one happens to be Brood X. There's VII and different numbers, and it seems to be attached to Roman numerals. This one is mostly centered around the Northeast. I'll show you a map in a moment. Probably, it'll show Boston down through Georgia, but it's the amounts are very sparse, I believe, down in Georgia in certain areas. The Northeast, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, parts of Ohio, parts of New York State. This is where they come out in the billions. And there is no way any species can evolve where it would know via natural selection that it's best to come out every 17 years. It's simply not possible from an evolutionary perspective. People would think just the fact that I'm questioning Darwin makes this video crazy. I assure you, this is the sanest part of what I'm about to present. We'll go back to the mask. This is the map of where Brood X comes out. And again, if you're just listening, I'll talk you through everything. You don't need it. This is a video that's better watched, but I know it's tough for some people. So, but this is still the sane portion of the presentation, something you could present to any second or third grade class if you want to just take this segment and leave the other segments out. So the map shows in red New York State all the way down through Georgia. This is where Brood X emerges. But they'll put a state in red if there's just like a few sightings. They're not coming out in the billions in most of these states. My understanding, it's Ohio, Pennsylvania, again, New York State, New Jersey, and maybe one or two others. And there's lots of different types of cicadas. Some are on a 13-year cycle. Some come out every year, of course, we hear that. So this is just Brood X. There's probably Brood I or III or V for Roman numeral 5. This is just the big one, the 17-year cicada. Going back and listening to my handheld camera Canon video, you could hear the din, that din in the background. I said something like they're not right here. Well, they're here, but they're not here like in the tens of millions. This din that I hear when I walk outside, it seems to be coming, I don't know, it's like a half a mile away, or the huge din is not here. In 17 years ago, for whatever reason, I was driving back through from coming back from northern New Jersey, and I drove through Princeton, right by the campus, just to get back on to find the Pennsylvania Turnpike. And there was some huge brood. This is 17 years ago. There were millions and millions in the trees, and I had never heard anything like that. And I have, of course, I have the 17-year cicada here. I had it 17 years ago, but I had never heard anything like when I drove through Princeton. It was the deafening factor was like a factor of 100. It was unbelievable. The last part of the same presentation before we go full conspiracy, nutso, Jeffrey in the insane asylum. Just again, if you want to snip at this part and present it to the second grade class, for 17 years, a lot of articles say they're sucking at tree roots, and they've got to be dormant for mostly 17 years. I didn't do too much research on the life cycle, but at some point, to grow and to gain energy, they start sucking on tree roots, the sugars. And the thing that comes out of the ground, you see these holes start to come up out of the ground, and it's just something that crawls in the shell. And after about a day or so, the full, like a caterpillar to a butterfly, the quote butterfly version emerges, and these shells are left everywhere. You see these the thing that was just the crawling species without the wings. These shells are like stuck to your house, stuck to trees, and I don't think it's in that shell, that first form that crawls out of the ground for more than a day or so. Then it hardens up, and it eventually will. It doesn't fly very well. It's real awkward. If there's a pool of water, many will fly into the pool of water, float upside down, die. They're not. All the wings have to do on this thing is just get it into the trees, where their legs are very sticky and they can climb. You know, I touched one that was, I touched one in the video, but one that was on its side, it was kind of stuck, and its feet were so sticky. Immediately, you could feel like its hairs, it stuck to my finger, and I had to like flick it off. I mean, not that it didn't leave any sort of slime like a snail or a slug would, but it's not a good flyer. It's, you know, it's just all over the place. Many kill themselves just flying into things and flying into pools of water. Just has to get into the trees. Fly up into the trees where it flies into any tree, it then will cling to the tree and climb to a branch and wait for a mate. And then, you know, millions and millions sing out for a mate. Okay, as you can see, it wears a mask. Anybody driving, didn't put an N95 on with straps around the ears. It naturally, more than any bug probably anywhere, looks like it's wearing an N95 mask. Can you see it? I don't think it's not a stretch at all. If you get close-up pictures of this thing, it's, you know, if you were designing a bug to make it look like it was wearing a mask, this is kind of the best you could do. It's pretty darn close. It is not a stretch if anybody can't see this. And then I'll just tell you what happened. If somebody's covered this, I haven't seen it. It's all new to me. It was 2 days ago. I picked a dead one up and it was right in the sun. I looked right at it. This was a big one, much bigger than the one I showed you. And I was like, what the heck? It's wearing a mask. I mean, just from, I didn't find any pictures. I picked one up and I just looked at it. And it was a bigger one. Some of the smaller ones, I guess it would be a little harder to see. Again, this thing was big, much bigger than the dead one I had in my hand earlier in this video. And I went, oh, you've got to be kidding me. Now, where am I going with this? I'm not really sure. I'm going to pause. And, you know, obviously I have some notion of what I want to say. But even in this group, it needs to be said in the right fashion. Or even in this group, I could be considered insane. And that's saying something. I can't keep showing bug images because if I pull one from the wrong source, it'll shut the video down. You know, talk about a one world system and how unnatural it is that one company dominates all the images around the world. You know, that one company, the first letter starts with a G. It's like Schmetty Images. You know, it's unnatural. There's no way one company, you know, you have to go through one company when, if you add up all the pictures being taken on cell phones, it very quickly translates into the trillions, but somehow they control it's just, anyway, we'll talk about that some other time. That is such an obvious giveaway of the one world system. But guys, the picture here is I'm just showing a closed playground. Again, for those driving or just listening, I can't keep showing bugs because I don't know where the images came from. I think Dane took this a long time ago, but if I got that wrong, sorry. So guys, I have to, in terms of the craziness of where I'm going with this, I'm just going to talk to the person that's new here, that might only, is coming into truth, might only been in the channel for a month or two. That's just the way I have to do it. So the best way to start is to say, if you've looked at the nature of reality closely, just studied it from a distance for 10 years, the amount of things we've seen, the amount of impossibilities, craziness, fluid reality, reality breakdowns, impossible coincidences and synchronicities, the chance of the eclipse being what they say it is 1 in a trillion, if not 1 in trillions. The chances of the Kennedy to Lincoln, JFK to Abe Lincoln synchronicities, like Lincoln's secretary was named Kennedy, Kennedy's secretary was named Lincoln. When you get to like 35 or 40, it gets to be 1 in a billion. When you get to 50, it's 1 in billions. No, you know what I'm going to say? We don't buy 1 in billion chances anymore. 1 in 10 is unlikely, right? 1 in 10 is unlikely. It's like, there's a 9 out of 10 chance I'm going to make it to the airport in time, get through this traffic jam. That's pretty good, 90%. Well, no, relax, calm down. You'll make your flight. That's 1 in 10. I'm talking about 1 in billions. I don't buy that. We don't believe in that 1 in billions anymore. When the news presents something like the eclipse and the chance of it is 1 in a trillion, then that's what they're presenting isn't what it is. It's pretty simple. So after all we've seen, and the Mandela affected people are like, this is no big deal to me. I've seen continents move, dude. The Mandela affected people slug this off. It ain't no big deal to them. So okay, let's get to the basics. Is it a coincidence, just a coincidence, that the biggest bug story in the 17-year Brood X that's coming out 17 years later, right in the middle of this thing, it's wearing a mask? Is it a coincidence? I'll put it 50-50, but I'm gonna just swing to the side that says no, it's not a coincidence. And of course, anybody who knows, like, what? How? So this bug comes up out of the ground. Yeah, it's cute. It looks like it's wearing a little cute mask. And you're saying somehow that's related to what's going on now? And all I would say to a new person is there's a probably more than 50-50 chance. And I'm being conservative here. I probably believe it's higher than that yes, there is a relationship. All I would say to that person is, if you study the nature of how things work here, things aren't very real. All right, things come into play that you would have never considered, like retrocausalities, like news events being so big that they have an effect on reality itself and have an effect on the past. Okay, that I can't explain retrocausality and all the things that have popped up regarding in the year 2001. We have to call it the 7/11 job application event. The amount of what you call predictive programming is almost impossible. That every little time the buildings were meant to be destroyed in a cartoon or in a comic book or in a movie or in a literary allusion somewhere, it's all just called in and planted. We're beyond that. It's not all called in and planted and arranged by the director. Many of us, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, believe that event was so massive that the ripple went out in all directions, back and through time, the now moment, future, and linear time's an illusion. The past seems like it's just gone forever. It's probably not. Our senses don't tell us the truth. I mean, the senses just help keep the illusory environment going and believable. Oh, this isn't my cat or Pam's cat. This is either Phil or Arnold. I'm not sure which. Friend of the channel. Well, so if any of these, it's very easy to operate totally inside your perception. Linear time must exist. The past is completely gone. But, if you're new here, it's hard to break those habits. But if you've been, I'm not saying just here, but you've been investigating these sorts of things for pushing 10 years, you start to break through the barriers of what you consider to be possible. Everything doesn't fall inside the bookends of understanding. Most things cannot be understood inside the bookends of what your teachers in high school and college tell you must exist inside the bookends. Most things fall outside. So again, the severely Mandela affected are, they'll slug this off saying, I've seen continents move. This ain't no big deal. So if you want to, it's kind of like, I don't know why this scene keeps popping into my head, but when Katsumoto is talking to Tom Cruise in The Last Samurai, that's just Dances with Wolves Part 2, a really, really good movie with a really, really good message, just like Dances with Wolves. It's really the same theme playing out, but in the Japanese samurai setting. And he says, you don't fear death, but sometimes you wish for it. And he goes on to say something like, this happens to men that have seen what we have seen on the battlefield. But I don't know why this popped in my head, but the best way to explain it is when you don't say a bug that's wearing an N95 mask or looks like it's wearing an N95 mask, and you're saying it's not completely 100% a random coincidence, and it might be not a coincidence at all. The only way I could describe it is you kind of get there when you have seen what we have seen. Or like the old guard here going, I know a lot of you are shaking your head like, it ain't no coincidence. I've seen too much crazy shit. I mean, a lot of people listening to this are sloughing off like, Matt, why are you being so conservative? Of course, it's with billions of people centering their conscious attention, creative power, imagery on masks. This thing comes out of the ground with a mask on. But there's thousands of people listening to this probably going, Matt, don't be so damn conservative, shaking their head. So I'm just telling you, anybody new, think about, you can either choose to believe those thousands of people are crazy, and we should all go down to the 12 Monkeys ward together and try to get into Jeffrey's games closet. Toilet paper, games trying to get out. You can think we're all crazy, or you might say, you may ask yourself, you may find yourself living in a shotgun shack. You may ask yourself, how did I get here? You may ask yourself, why would so many people just kind of shake their head like, yeah, that's a possibility? Because it happens to people who have seen all that we have seen. Nothing phases us much anymore. We could walk outside and the hidden planet X, Nibiru, whatever, and even NASA people they're fraudulent, but they've even mentioned there's this other planet out there. And I don't want to get into a sidetrack. Y'all know what I believe about that. Nobody can go up and help Matt Damon. Nobody goes anywhere. But the point is, forget that. If we walk outside and the damn giant Nibiru Planet X is, coming around the mountain as she comes, and it's just up there, coming around the moon, about to slam into Earth, we'd be like, yeah, that's kind of what I expected. Like nothing phases us anymore. Be like, yeah, that's not what that's. A little bit different than I expected, but I understand that, and the planet's gonna, net planet X is gonna impact, and okay, it's all as it's supposed to be. That's cool. What's on TV tonight? Would we be a little bit more phased than that if we saw Nibiru coming around the moon? Of course, but you know what I'm saying. I'm saying if anybody has the chance to just slough it off, it's no big deal. It happens to we who have seen what we have seen. So you can believe anybody new that we're nutso. And I don't mean, Matt, you speaking for thousands of people that are going to believe that the damn bug's wearing a mask just like you. That's a bold statement. You speaking for all those people. I know my people. I know my peeps. Many are yelling at me going, you ain't going far enough. Just say it, Matt. Stop walking on eggshells. The damn bug came out of the ground with a mask on. Just say it. What you afraid of, boy? So, guys, I'll look at your comments, but is it a coincidence? Probably not. And anything's on the table then. Did it come out of the ground 17 years ago looking the same? Maybe not. See how this works? Might have been completely different. But I remember it looking the same. Oh, that's what you remember. We'll talk more in the future. Thanks, guys. Got a big skin scab here.